how to make the transition from short-term storage to long-term storage. And do you even know what the difference is? Hello everybody, this is Deb from Just Do Something Homestead, and today is the beginning of a transition for me. The transition that I'm talking about is that I'm moving away from multi-ingredient foods and moving towards foods that store far longer. For decades, I have been vacuum sealing most of my dried goods. Many of those have stored exceptionally well and have become my long-term storage items. But I have also had many failures. The good news is I've learned more from my failures than I have from my success, but I want to share some of that with you today. A lot of people talk about what can be vacuum sealed and what can't be vacuum sealed. The difference is they're not telling you why. The reality is you can vacuum seal just about anything. You can even vacuum seal fresh fruits and vegetables. The difference is, will they last? Are they safe? And how do you know? And even more importantly, how can I go from something that's only going to store for about a year to something that's going to store for at least 10 years? Let's talk about it. Not only are we going to talk about the top items that vacuum seal long term, I'm going to show you step by step how to vacuum seal. And if you've been wondering where I've been, well, I had some oral surgery done. First off, it was supposed to be a simple pull out a tooth, but suddenly it turned into a dental bone graft, and wow, that knocked me out for about 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks gave me time to think about, what do I want to do with my pantry? Do I want to store more items for long term, or do I want to adjust exactly what I am doing? All right, let's talk about vacuum sealing. First, I want to show you another big mistake I made in the past. This one right here is cinnamon marshmallow powder. What I did, I dehydrated some marshmallows and then I made it into a powder. And this powder tasted so good. I would stir it into hot cocoa, even into my coffee, and honestly, it was delicious. Put a little on your cereal, add a little sweetness. Yep, it was good. It was very good until it wasn't very good, and it was almost instantly. This powder turned into a brick. I couldn't scoop it out, I couldn't spoon it out, I couldn't knock it out, and the reality is I learned a quick lesson. Even though I removed the moisture and then I vacuum sealed it and removed the air, it still did not vacuum seal well enough to store. It was mistakes like these that taught me that the more ingredients that are in your items, the more difficult it is to store long term. With these pretzels, not only are they high in fat, but they have lots of ingredients. And so not only did I fight against making sure they didn't go rancid, but I also fought against them going stale. So unfortunately, these pretzels, they are now chicken food. You know what it's like. You buy your very first vacuum sealer and the whole world opens up. You start vacuum sealing everything. And yes, they definitely do vacuum seal. But 3 years into vacuum sealing your chocolate chips, you notice they start turning white. And when you open up those cheese crackers, they are beyond stale. What went wrong? I noticed some of my cereals simply did not last as long as others. An example is right here. This chocolate one had almonds in it, and it went stale very quickly. So over the past 6 months, I started to transition. I want long-term storage, and I want it to store for as long as possible. But it's not as simple as how it's stored or what equipment you use, the temperature or the lighting. No, it all goes back to one thing. What are you storing? Let's look at some items that are definitely long-term storage. These items can go for at least a decade. Beans. As most people know, you can always store dried beans. And on the same line as beans is rice. You want to choose white rice, not brown rice. Brown rice simply does not have the shelf life. Here are 3 other items that I store long term. The first one is popcorn. And yes, you can pop it, but you can also grind it into a corn meal or corn flour. The same with oatmeal. Did you know you can grind it into flour? You can use it for baking. You can use it for recipes. You can eat it as oatmeal. And the last one is cocoa. If I store cocoa, I can mix up a lot of baked ingredients and it'll last longer. Now you may have noticed I did not say flour. This organic flour is only good until 2026. That's because if you want long-term flour, you need to store wheat berries. Those berries can last for 20 years or more, and then you grind them when you need your flour. Another short-term ingredient is pasta, and that one hits hard because I love to store pasta. Now the good news is it will store for at least 5 years. But if you're looking for 10 or 20 years, you will not be able to store your pasta that long. Another long-term item, this is freeze-dried potatoes. No, they are not potato chips. Potato chips have one of the shortest lives, but if you buy freeze-dried ones, they will last for at least 10 years. And of course, my favorite aisle. We have chocolate, nuts, crackers, cookies, chips. Tisk, tisk, tisk. None of those items are going to store far beyond the best by date. So look at the package. Yes, you can vacuum seal them. It'll keep the bugs out. It'll keep them fresh, but nope, it's not going to extend the best by date. So what's a person to do? One thing I've done is I started making small batches of homemade cereals. That way I can have all those items in it, make a batch on a Sunday, eat it during the week. I do vacuum seal it in between, but not because it'll extend it, just so it'll keep it fresh. As far as cereals, you may have noticed in the past that I had rows and rows of it because I do eat cereal every day. I am down to just this many jars. I'm no longer going to vacuum seal my cereal into these half-gallon jars. These jars are going to be saved just for whole ingredients. Instead, cereal is going to go into one of these pint jars and one at a time into my kitchen. When I vacuum sealed all this oatmeal that I had purchased in a huge bag, I found out quickly I really don't have that many half-gallon jars. So from this point on, the rest of these will also go for whole ingredients. That saves these jars for long-term storage. In the future, I would like to make all my cereal, but for now, I really love this coconut cereal that I get at Aldi. So right now, let's vacuum seal some cereal. Pint jars are cheaper, easier, and lighter to store. So the first thing you're going to do is wash and dry your jar completely. I like to do that the day before. Then fill it up with your cereal. Next, I like to pound it on my countertop to get this level a little bit lower. When I do that, I'm able to add a lot more to my jar. Now I can add some more cereal. I'm aiming to line up with this bottom ridge. That's pretty good. One lesson I've learned in life, do not put too much in your jar because it's going to prevent it from sealing. Wipe off the rim with a clean hand. Yes, that is a clean hand. And I'm going to put on a regular sized flat. Add the attachments and plug it into your vacuum sealer. Now I am using my Food Saver FM5200. I have had one of them for about 14 years and I bought a second one just as a backup. There is nothing wrong with the first one. This one I can tell is the newer one. I have one in my pantry and one in my kitchen. You're going to turn on your vacuum sealer and hit accessory. Your vacuum sealer will shut off automatically, then remove the port and the attachment. Check your seal by pushing on the center, making sure it's gone down just a little bit, and then trying to remove that lid, which you should not be able to do. So this jar is definitely sealed. And lastly, don't forget to put on the ring. And even though this will only store for short term, I add a year to that Best By date. So this container of cereal is good until January 2nd, 2027. I had 2.5 boxes of cereal. I was able to put it into 5-pint jars. This will now be short-term storage. I looked at the side of the box. This cereal has 14 ingredients. So when I get to the point where I am making my own cereal, I'm going to adapt it. I will probably use maple syrup instead of sugar, coconut, honey, cinnamon. It did not have cinnamon in it. And of course, oats. But there are many varieties that I can come up with all on my own. This has already freed up one of my half-gallon jars, so now I can vacuum seal some rice. Same process. I wanted to mention that if you're concerned about the amount of lids that you are using when you use all these small jars, just remember with vacuum sealing, you can reuse those lids over and over again. Next, I'm going to vacuum seal some popcorn, and I want to encourage you to always be on the lookout. My daughter actually found this at her Martin's or Giant, and it was just $1.29 for a pack. So. Another great myth is you can only vacuum seal full jars. Well, that's simply not true. In fact, I vacuum seal in between using some of the products. So this one can be vacuum sealed. The only difference, it's going to take a little bit longer to get all the air out, but that's just about it. So yes, you can vacuum seal even when it's not filled. My goal for this year is to store more long-term food items by vacuum sealing. That way I can create an endless amount of food, but I'm not wasting space on items that just don't store well, such as cereal and pasta. This will enable me to have more space for my whole foods so that I can come up with recipes that are more like what I want to be serving my family. And of course, the advantage of that is that it will store long term. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Have a blessed day, everybody. Bye-bye. And yes, I have been teaching school without a tooth. Eventually, I'll have one.